James, you look like you're in an airport.
Hi, Mark. Yeah, I'm in Chicago O'Hare, no less.
That one. What's your favorite American airport?
Well, I don't mind this one actually, largely because of the woman who helped me with the Wi-Fi information. But I also like it because of the movie that was filmed here, starring Macaulay Culkin,
Yes,
a
Home
child.
Alone. Who can
Home
forget?
Alone, you got it.
In one. Anyway, enough of that. Why, James, are you in Chicago?
Well, I'm here, Mark, because there is a chill wind blowing through the windy city. They're calling this ground zero for deportations. We're going to take a look at that and we'll talk much more about that tomorrow. But, of course, a lot happening today.
Yeah, if you were with us yesterday, we discussed the trade war which President Trump seemed to declare on Colombia, and it was over as quickly as it began, and with a Trump victory. His target, Colombia, relenting. We'll talk through what happened there and what it means. Plus, I'm sure you've seen the amazing footage from Gaza, thousands of Palestinians flooding back to Northern Gaza to their homes. I've been talking to Samra Lukman, who is one of many Arab Americans who can credit themselves for getting Trump back into the White House. She and I first met in late October. She's been with me again today, and we've been talking about Trump's role in the ceasefire and what his comments over the weekend to clear out Gaza, what she thinks of them.
And just a few minutes ago, the president has been speaking in Florida. We'll dissect that as well. Much has been happening. Let's get into it. This is day 9 of Trump 100 with me, James Matthews.
And me, Mark Stone.
A war, the makings of a war, certainly, a trade war with Colombia, which never happened in the end, but for a couple of hours it wasn't looking good.
Yeah, it was a kind of wow moment as we saw American diplomacy, if you could call it that, because it wasn't particularly diplomatic, unfolding not in the Situation Room of the White House, but as is Trump's way, on social media. A quick recap: it was Sunday afternoon when the Colombian government refused to allow 2 military planes carrying Colombian deportees in retaliation. Very quickly on social media, Trump said that there would be 25% tariffs slapped on all Colombian imports. And he also effectively cancelled all visa applications for all Colombians. I mean, it was extraordinary stuff. Now, initially, the Colombian government suggested it was going to put up a fight, threatening to put in place its own tariffs against US imports. And yet, hours later, Colombia backed down, suddenly saying we will accept all the deportees, including all those sent on military planes. It was a massive win, I think, for the Trump administration.
And of course, this all played out on social media.
Mm.
Trump and Colombia's president having this Twitter spat. I don't shake hands with white slavers, said Colombia's president. And at one stage, Trump posted on Truth Social an image of him. I'm sure it was an image of him in Marlon Brando outfit, Don Corleone with that sign in the background, FAFO, F around and find out. When it playground stuff, everything short of my dad's bigger than your dad. And I wonder about world leaders looking on, thinking, why are we intellectualizing our way through the world's problems when all it needs is a late night Twitter spat? But those same world leaders, I think, Mark,
Mm.
I can see them despairing at Colombia backing down. This was a rangefinder. The rest of the world doesn't necessarily want to see an emboldened, encouraged America First president, but I think that's what we have after the Colombia spat.
It worked, didn't it? I mean, simple was a simple, clean win for Trump, and he's been talking about it in the last few minutes in Florida. An early victory, no?
I think so.
But I tell you what is interesting is that this has, Trump has been using these tariff threats as precisely that, as a threat. If you don't do this, he says to A country or B country, then I will do that. And he's been saying it about China. He's been saying it about Mexico. What I don't quite understand, maybe we need to get Ed Conway on to talk about this. What I don't get is that if these countries do what Colombia has done and said, okay, fine, we'll sort out this problem, then Trump can't impose the tariffs. And these are the tariffs, the money from which he says he will use to make America great and wealthy again. So I'm interested to know how that'll play out. But I guess that's probably one for another episode. Another thought I had. I mean, we all remember in a UK scenario that the sort of the knots that Britain tied itself up in, and in fact the European Union did as well, over their own migration problems, trying to send migrants back to their own countries, and they couldn't do it because they were wrapped up in legal arguments. Britain tried to do the whole Rwanda plan. Remember that? Well, Trump's playbook is just do it. And if the host country doesn't send them back, well, then whack tariffs onto them, make it impossible to deal with those countries. It's the Trump way of doing things, and it does appear to work, undiplomatic as it may be. And I wonder if over time this Trump playbook will become a new normal.
Yeah, questions as well about strategic wisdom, I think. Colombia has been an ally, not a political bedfellow necessarily, but a healthy trading partner. And bear in mind that China has long been seeking to grow its influence in Latin America. So any fracture between Colombia and the United States will benefit the Chinese.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. In the Middle East today, we've seen thousands of Palestinians returning to their homes in Northern Gaza after an agreement was reached in talks between Israel and Hamas. That, of course, the consequence of what was in part a Trump victory in securing the ceasefire. A massive moment for Palestinians, not least because civilians have been barred from that part of the Gaza Strip for much of the war. So real positive images coming out of a place where we have seen not much of that for a very long time. But a row has broken out after Donald Trump said at the weekend this to journalists on Air Force One.
And I'd like Egypt to take people, and I'd like Jordan to take people. I mean, you're talking about probably 1.5 million people, and we just clean out that whole thing.
It's a bit hard to hear, but he's talking there about cleaning out Gaza. That's the phrase he used, and having Jordan and Egypt taking in the Palestinians who live there.
Yeah, it's controversial because he's echoing the wishes of the more extreme elements of Israeli society. The Palestinians should leave Gaza, go and live somewhere else, effectively. Trump has faced a lot of criticism from allies, from human rights organizations, but also, and this is what's interesting for me, is from Arab Americans here in the United States, Arab Americans who voted for him in big numbers.
It's quite a new thing, isn't it, the support for Trump amongst Arab Americans who have traditionally been Democratic leaning.
Yeah, it is. And it was kind of a penny drop moment for me when I went to Michigan about a week or two before the election, where went to meet Arab Americans who traditionally post 9/11, they had become Democrats and they were always voting Democrat. And suddenly there was this suggestion that in Michigan and elsewhere, this particular demographic was actually going to turn to Trump, even though he has shown in the past a lot of support for Israel. So I was confused as to why they were going for Trump. But Trump said he could get a ceasefire on Gaza. And so they were willing to give him a shot. It could never get worse than it was under Biden, was something you heard an awful lot. This conversation I had always resonates with me, was a woman called Samara Luckman, a real estate agent, a mother, and a campaigner who cares deeply about the plight of civilians in Gaza. And Trump was her man.
The day I met Trump, and I gave my son a MAGA hat, and I said, I guess we're there. And he said, ew. His first words to me were, ew. I said, but Baba, he said he's going to stop the war. And he said, okay, that's it. Give me that hat. We're voting for Trump.
So I've checked in with her again to see how she's feeling now about her decision to back Trump. If she feels like it paid off, and whether or not she feels worried by his latest comments. We spoke while you were earning your air miles, James, on that flight to Chicago.
Samra, hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm very well. It's been a little while since we spoke. When was it? Just before the election, right?
Yes, it was. It was cold.
Exactly. How's your little boy? Has he still got his MAGA hat?
He does. He does.
Well, look, I'm kind of keen for a bit of a sit rep, as they say, just to find out how you're feeling a week into the new presidency, because lots has happened.
I mean, I'm so thrilled that the bombing has stopped, that people are not getting killed on a daily basis. To see the March of Return, as people are calling it, it's pretty amazing. Our commitment or promise from Trump was that there would be a ceasefire. We hadn't discussed more on rebuilding of Gaza and what that's going to look like. The fact that we still have access to the administration means that we will be able to properly advocate for our people, and that is a plus. That is a positive. With regards to his statements, with the March of Return that we're seeing right now, it is evident that you will not be able to remove Gazans or Palestinians from their land. So I'm not sure how such a plan could be effectuated, as he had stated. People there are not going to leave.
Do you feel that President Trump owes you one, the Arab American community? You helped get him over the line in November. Critics said you were naive and that Trump was just using you because he knew that Michigan was a key place. It was a state he needed to win. And now he is not going to have your back when it comes to your views and your beliefs on Palestinian statehood.
He's already had our backs. He's already fulfilled that promise. Before he even stepped into office, he had Mike Waltz negotiating a ceasefire. This is what we wanted, and we got it within the first week. So he's already had our backs in that respect. If the Republicans wish to retain this now independent voting bloc, there is more that they're going to have to do. But, I just... If I'm going to be blamed for what may come after this moment and what Trump may do to the Palestinians, then why do I not get the credit for also getting its ceasefire achieved? But at the end of the day, voters are not to blame for what a politician does. He made the promise and he fulfilled it, and that was what we intended on achieving anyway.
And now I guess you'll just keep up the pressure on him.
Exactly. I mean, we are working. One thing I can say that Republicans have done differently than what we saw with Democrats is that they have maintained monthly communications with grassroots leaders. They want to hear our concerns. They want to hear what it is that we want to happen with Palestine and Gaza, as well as other domestic issues. So we are maintaining the pressure. And if they want support for things, we are going to ask for things in return. So we are very much engaged with them, and they hear us out. So I'm hopeful. I'm really hopeful. I'm more hopeful than I was when Biden was in office.
Look, thank you so much. Can we check in with you again in a while and
Absolutely,
in a few weeks, couple of months,
yes,
and see
absolutely.
how it's going.
So there we go. I think she is still very much of the view that Trump delivered her what she had wanted, which was the ceasefire in Gaza, and that although he may be saying some things that she's a little worried about, that overall he will deliver on his pledge to find peace in the Middle East. But we're seeing over the past week, it kind of depends with Trump on who the strongest voice in his ear is, who's the last person in the room, who has the most attractive transaction on offer. In the Middle East, if he wants to crack that, achieve peace, then he is going to need to solve the Palestinian issue. And I think that is what Arab Americans here are holding on to.
I'm struck by that phrase, Mark, cleaning out, that Trump has used. It reminds me of last November and Jared Kushner, a son-in-law of Donald Trump. He spoke about the very valuable potential of Gaza's waterfront property. Said Israel should remove civilians while it cleans up the Gaza Strip. I mean, that's real estate talk, transactional.
It depends, I think, on who the benefactor of this transaction is. If there is and actually an Arab American said this to me the other day, if there is a Trump Gaza golf club in 5-10 years' time, and it's run by Palestinians, and Palestinians are at the heart of it, then that's a good thing. I think the concern, obviously, and this goes back to the heart of it all for Palestinians, is if they get removed from what they see to be their land, and that they're replaced by Israelis, then, well, that is a big, big problem for them. And back in Michigan, it will send shivers. Look, we're almost done, but as always, want to round up a few other things that had happened. As we were recording, in fact, we were a little late recording, kept you waiting in the airport, James, because Trump was speaking down in Florida. He was addressing the great and the good of the Republican Party. To be honest, there wasn't much new in the speech. It was more a sort of greatest hits. This is what I've achieved in my first week. What struck me was how he carried himself. Such confidence, so comfortable in his own skin. Funny as well. It wasn't too rambly. He wasn't weaving too much. He kind of has his message now.
Even CNN is saying, this guy is amazing. I couldn't believe it. I said, did CNN really say that? Because nobody watches, so nobody was able to confirm it.
What else? Pete Hegseth is the new US Defense Secretary, sworn in now, approved on Capitol Hill, and he arrived for his first day at work at the Pentagon. The former Fox News host and junior officer in the US National Guard, now in charge of one of the world's largest government departments. 3 million employees at a budget of $8 billion, and of course, the world's most powerful military.
It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to serve on behalf of the president, serve on behalf of the country.
And lastly, James, I think the First Lady's portrait is out. Is that right?
So I hear. Have you seen it?
I have. Have you not?
No, tell me about it. Paint a
Well,
picture with words.
Okay. Well, I mean, AI. It looks kind of AI generated. I'm sure it's not.
Naturally.
I'm sure it's not. She has an incredible complexion, shall we say? But it does seem to me to have kind of apprentice vibes going on there. But anyway, it's
Well,
taken
I
at the
never-
White House. Yeah, it's exactly. It's taken at the White House. You can see it on our app, the Sky News app, I'm sure.
All right, Mark. Well, for today, we're fired. That's all we have time for. As always, if you have enjoyed listening, please do follow the feed or share it with your friends. And if you'd like to get in touch, you can email us on trump100@sky.uk.
And James, we are very much looking forward to hearing, seeing, and watching what you've got done in Chicago.
Yeah, big story, important matter. We'll bring you much more of that tomorrow. That's it for day 9 of Trump 100. See you tomorrow for day 10.
See you then.